Ciao e benvenuti al Tavolo Italiano. Today we're studying regular Italian verbs in the imperative tense. Before we get started, a few notes as usual. First, we're assuming that you understand subject pronouns and the basic principles of conjugating verbs in Italian. If you don't understand these, you may want to first watch the videos explaining those subject pronouns, etc., as we will not be going into a great amount of detail, once again, assuming that you already know these things. Secondly, this lesson only covers the conjugation of Italian regular verbs in the imperative tense. There are some very irregular verbs in this tense, and their conjugations will be needed to be committed to memory as well. So you'll find those in the rest of the lesson that's contained in Il Tavolo Italiano, but not in this video. Also, unlike most Italian tenses, it is not laid out as most conjugation patterns are. For this reason, you will need to pay particular attention to the subject pronouns and not rely on the position alone. In other words, first, second, third person singular, first, second, third person plural. And you'll find out what I mean in a minute. Now let's take a closer look at our lesson. Conjugating regular verbs in the imperative tense. The imperative tense is easy to learn, but at the same time it's handled a little differently due to the nature of the tense. Being for commands and orders, it negates the use of the first person, or io, as you don't typically order yourself to do something. Also, there's no third person commands. So there's no lui, there's no he, she, or they in the imperative. The first person plural, or noi, can be used, but it's more of a strong suggestion, such as let's go, etc. So instead of noi being we, it would actually be more like let's. Therefore, instead of the typical first, second, third person singular and plural view of the conjugation, the imperative tense, we conjugate the verb to work with the second person, familiar and formal singular, first person, plural, and second person, familiar and formal, plural. Now, before we go on, let's take a look at what that means in the chart below. If you'll look over to the left of the chart where it says subject pronoun, just take a quick look at the pronouns and let's cover this and make sure we understand it. Normally this is where we have io, tu, lui, lei, noi, voi, and loro, which is I, you, he, she, we, y'all, and them, they, This time, as I stated above, all we have is tu, lei, no lui. And the reason why there's no lui is because lei here is not she, it's you in the formal sense. Okay, so we have you or tu, you or lei, noi or let's, because it's not we, it's let's, voi or you familiar, and loro or you plural formal. So loro here is the plural of lei formal. It's not they. So it's you, let's, y'all, y'all. Okay. Now, it's also important to note that if you're going to make negative the verb of the second person singular, or the verb conjugated for tu in the imperative, you use non in the infinitive verb. Okay? So if I wanted to say don't speak, and I was speaking directly to one person who I knew very well, so I was using tu, I would say non parlare, non parlare, non plus the infinitive. Okay. To illustrate how to conjugate these verbs, I like to use math equations, just like I do in all the tenses, as an example. But first, here are the conjugated verb endings for all regular verbs. For are, they are a, iamo, ate, and ino. A, iamo, ate, ino. For ere, they are a, iamo, ete, anno. I, a, iamo, ete, ano. For I or E, they are I, a, iamo, ite, ano. Or if you have an isk verb, they're going to be ishi, iska, iamo, ite, iskano. Now, if you pay close attention to this conjugation, you'll see that the noi and the voi are just like the present tense for all three conjugations. And when you get to tu, it's just like the present tense for ere and ire. For the are, the tu and lay are reversed. And then for the lay and the ere and the ire, it's a instead of a. And then the noise is a little bit different. For are, it's ino instead of ano. And for the other two, it's ano instead of ono. If you can remember those differences, this is actually a very easy conjugation. Okay, let's take a look at some individual examples. Okay, to conjugate a regular a or e verb in the imperative tense, take the infinitive minus the infinitive ending equals the verb stem plus the conjugated ending equals the conjugated verb. So example, parlare, or the regular infinitive verb, minus are, the infinitive ending, equals par, the infinitive stem, or the verb stem, plus iamo, the conjugated ending, for we, equals parliamo, the conjugated verb. Let's speak. Okay, the rest of parlare, conjugated in the imperative tense, is parla, speak. Non parlare, don't speak. Parli, speak. Non parli, don't speak. Parliamo, let's speak. Parlate, speak. Non parlate, don't speak. Parlino, speak. Non parlino, don't speak. Okay, let's spend a few minutes evaluating this. I'm not going to go into this in the other two conjugations, but I do want to go through it one time with you. Here you'll see the endings for the are, a, I, iamo, ate, ino, as I had spoke. Also, remember I said that tu and lei both meant you singular. It's just one was familiar and one's formal. Voi and loro both mean you plural. One's familiar and one's formal. Remember we said noi wasn't going to be we speak, but let's speak. You could have a negative of that. I just opted not to put one down. I guess you could say let's not speak as well. But once again, I just opted not to do it. Now, you'll notice that all of the negatives are made just like in any other tense for these three. Non parli, parli, non parli. Parlate, non parlate. Parlino, non parlino. But for tu, as we discussed, it's non and then the infinitive verb. Okay? The only other thing I wanted to point out is obviously I didn't say any of the subject pronouns. Parla, parli, parliamo, parlate, parlino. Remember, these are commands. They're going to tend to be a little more abrupt. So that's basically the imperative tense in a nutshell for the ARE. We won't go into this much detail on the other conjugations just for sake of time. But I do think you'll be able to pick it up pretty easy. Okay, so for the second conjugation, or ERE verbs, it's the infinitive verb minus the infinitive ending equals the verb stem plus the conjugated ending and the conjugated verb. Example, scrivere, to write, minus ere equals scrive plus iamo, ending for we, scriviamo, let's write. And the rest of scrivere in the imperative, scrivi, non scrivere. Scriva, non scriva. Scriviamo. Scrivete, non scrivete. Scrivono, non scrivono. For the IRE verbs, infinitive verb minus infinitive ending equals verb stem plus conjugated ending equals conjugated verb. Example, pulire, to clean, minus ire equals pool plus iamo, ending for we, equals puliamo, let's clean. Let's take a look at the whole conjugation. Pulisci, clean. Non pulire, don't clean. Pulisca, clean, formal. Non pulisca, don't clean, formal. Puliamo, let's clean. Pulite, clean, familiar, plural. Non pulite, puliscono, clean, plural, formal. Non puliscono. Okay, so now that you have these down pat, and remember, you can go through this video as many times as you need to get them to that point. Let's see if you can get some of these right. What I'm going to do is give you a conjugated verb in English, and I'll say just simply, for instance, listen, as you see up there for the singular, or for the single you or tu form, tu or lay. And then I'll indicate if it's familiar or formal. So if I just say the verb like listen, you know it's singular, and then I'll tell you familiar or formal. And then I'll pause for about 3 or 4 seconds. You will need to then provide me with the Italian equivalent. I'll also throw some let's listen in there, which of course would be the noi form. I won't always use the verb for to listen. I just used that as an example, but I think you know what I mean. So here we go. Let's see if you can figure this out. Listen, familiar. Ascolta. Look, formal. Guardi. Let's run. Corriamo. Y'all read. Leggete. Y'all win. Vincono. Finish. Finisci. Obey. Ubbidisca. Let's leave. Partiamo. Don't cry. Non piangere. Y'all decide. Decidete. Y'all jump. Saltino. Don't y'all quarrel. Familiar. Non litigate. Think. Familiar. Pensa. Let's dance. Parliamo. Study. Formal. Studi. Don't speak. Formal. Non parli. Don't y'all push. Formal. Non spingano. Don't break. Familiar. Non rompere. And there you have it, our study on the imperative tense. How'd you do on the quiz at the end? I know I forgot to mention, actually, a few of the formal are familiar, but it did show up on the video itself, so you still should have been able to get it. First time around might be a little bit tough. You need to learn the verbs, kind of go over the conjugations, look at the pages real well, study that, then come back and go through the video again, see if you can't get them all right. Thank you very much for coming to the Italian table. Grazie mille. Remember, you can find all kinds of information on the imperative tense, as well as all the other tenses and all things grammatical Italian at tavoloitaliano.com, where everything online is always free. Grazie mille. Ciao e parlo italiano.